I heard footsteps behind me. I was walking home from the grocery store with my groceries in my hand, and I could feel the sun beating down on me. I didn't own an air conditioner. It wasn't a priority when you had to choose between food and AC, and it was 36 degrees Celsius. But what made it worse was that there was no wind. Usually when it's hot like that, there's at least some wind to cool your skin. But this time, nothing. The heat just sat on top of you, making you sweat more than usual. I was thinking about grabbing an ice cream on the way home, because that would be a nice treat, but it was probably going to melt by the time I got home anyway. So I thought, just get home first, and then grab an ice cream after I put all of my food away. So I kept walking. The house I was renting was quite small, and it was actually originally meant to be a granny flat. It had only one bedroom, which I used as both a bedroom and a living room, since the kitchen was essentially separate from the rest of the house. In total, I think I spent about $450 per month for this place. Not too bad for London. As I walked past the bus stop near my house, I noticed a man sitting there. He was wearing a dark jacket, even though it was hot outside, and he looked at me as I passed by. I didn't pay much attention to him, though, since there were lots of tourists around. And if I had paid more attention, I would have realized that the man was watching me. When I turned the corner onto my street, I started to hear footsteps behind me. I ignored it. I had just come from the busiest area in town, so there was bound to be people behind me. Also, I didn't want to stop paying attention to every little noise, like footsteps. That's how you drive yourself crazy in a city like London. So I kept walking. As I approached my front door, though the footsteps got louder and I could hear someone breathing heavily behind me. This was weird. There's no way anyone could be behind me if they were walking behind me. And yet, I could hear their footsteps loud and clear. I fumbled with my keys as I tried to open up the door. When it finally opened, I stepped inside and quickly closed it behind me. Once I turned on the lights, I saw that there was something in my kitchen. It was dark, brown in color, and it looked like a pair of trousers. But it wasn't my trousers. I hadn't been wearing those today. I got closer to investigate, and I soon realized that whatever was in my kitchen wasn't trousers at all. It was a big dog. A massive hot dog that must have weighed about 75 pounds. I couldn't believe it. Some people just let their dogs roam around freely. It was unbelievable. And to make things worse, it had gone into my kitchen and started eating my food. I screamed, and the dog jumped out of my kitchen, running away as fast as it could. I ran after it, wanting to find its owner and tell them off. If not for being able to speak fluent dog, I would have given it a good smack. The dog led me out of my house and into the hallway where the man who had followed me was waiting. He looked at me and said, "Good boy, Bruno." Then he looked at my open front door and asked, "Did you let him out?" I shook my head and said, "You need to keep better control of your dog. You almost scared me to death." He simply nodded and said, "Sorry, man." Before grabbing the leash and continuing to walk down the hallway, I watched him go and I went back inside. My heart was still pounding. What the hell? Why did he follow me? Was his dog friendly or something? And why did it run into my house? Did it know my door was unlocked? So many questions, but no answer. I decided to change into some clothes because I had sweated a lot. and then I headed back out. I wanted to go to the store and grab some ice cream. Unfortunately, as I opened my front door, I saw that Bruno had returned. The dog looked at me and then laid down on the floor, wagging its tail. "Hey, you're not welcome here," I told the dog, but it just kept wagging its tail, hoping for a treat. I couldn't resist, so I grabbed a cookie from the cupboard and gave it to the dog. It quickly gobbled it up and then laid back down again, still wagging its tail. This dog was shameless. I knew I should leave, but I also knew that I didn't want to be alone in this apartment right now. So I stayed there until the dog eventually got bored and left. Later that night, I was laying in my bed trying to sleep, but I couldn't. For some reason, I kept thinking about that dog. I mean, what kind of dog is that big? It was definitely bigger than any dog I had ever seen in my life. I don't even know what breed it was. It was like a teddy bear. But I also kept thinking about the man who had followed me. Who was he? Why did he follow me? Was it him or the dog? Or was it something else entirely? These thoughts kept me awake, and eventually I got up to get a drink of water. That's when I noticed something strange on my window. Something that made my blood run cold. There was a big paw print on my window. Like a big dog had literally been sitting outside of my window. But why? How long had it been sitting there? Had it been sitting there when I was taking my shower? I felt a shiver go down my spine. There was no way I was getting back to sleep now, but I didn't want to stay in this house either. So I grabbed my keys and headed out. It was quite late at night, and most shops were closed. I walked down the street to where the man and his dog had followed me earlier. I wanted to see if anything was around, but everything was closed. There were no cars driving by, and there were no people anywhere. But then I saw something. On the ground, right where the man and the dog had disappeared, there was a set of footprints. They weren't the prints of a person, nor were they the prints of a dog. Whoever or whatever had followed me had made these prints, and that thing had definitely been behind me the whole time. I wanted to call the police, but I knew they wouldn't take me seriously. What am I supposed to say? Some guy and his big dog followed me home, and then the dog broke into my house. Yeah, they did. Probably send over an officer to ask me if I was sure I had Eon. Just made it up because I didn't like the dog. So I decided to walk around some more, hoping to find another set of footprints. Maybe if I found some more evidence, the police would actually take me seriously. But I never found any more footprints. When I finally headed back home, I noticed that the dog was outside my house again. It was sitting directly under my window, and it was looking at me. I immediately locked myself inside and called the police. They sent an officer over to ask me some questions, and I told him everything that had happened. He listened very patiently, but at the end he just laughed and said, "Come on, mate. It was probably just a dog. Dogs do that sometimes. Don't worry about it. He didn't even look at the paw prints on my floor. He clearly didn't believe me. So I just let it go. But the next day, I decided to check my Ring doorbell footage to see if it captured anything. That's when I saw it. Right in the footage, Bruno was walking up to my window and sticking his big paws on it. And right behind him was the man from yesterday. I showed this footage to the police, but it didn't really matter. They still didn't believe me. And honestly, at this point, I was starting to second-guess myself. Was I really losing my mind, or was something actually following me? Let me know what you think in the comments.